Have you ever felt the kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room, it fills your chest? That strange quiet that comes when the phone stops ringing, the kids stop visiting, and the house feels too big for one heartbeat. You sit in your favorite chair, the one that once held laughter and company, and suddenly the air feels heavy, like it's pressing on memories you can't touch anymore. You tell yourself you're fine. You watch TV for the noise. You scroll just to feel the hum of life somewhere. But deep down, something aches. It's not just loneliness. It's the echo of a life that used to feel full, and now somehow feels unfinished. They never told us getting older would sound like this. Not with laughter, but with clocks ticking in empty rooms. And yet, there's a strange truth hidden in that silence, one the monks have known for centuries. They say silence is not punishment, it's an invitation. It's the doorway the soul must walk through to remember who it really is. Most of us spend a lifetime running from silence, afraid of what it might say. But monks do the opposite. They sit with it, they listen, they breathe, and somewhere in that stillness, they stop feeling alone. Because loneliness isn't the absence of people, it's the absence of presence. Silence, when met with softness, doesn't break you. It begins to speak to you, not with words, but with peace. So before we go further, take a breath. Let the quiet settle, because the monks discovered something the world forgot. The silence we fear most is often the one that finally heals us. Let's begin with what the monks understand about solitude. That it's not a punishment, but a teacher. 1. Solitude is not the absence of people, but the presence of yourself. There's a moment, somewhere in the quiet, when you realize that the world has finally stopped asking anything of you. No deadlines, no phone calls, no noise, just you, sitting in a room where time feels soft and slow. And for many people, that's the scariest sound in the world. We spend decades defining ourselves by others, by the children we raised, the jobs we kept, the people we loved. Then one day the roles fade, the house grows quiet, the mirror shows a face that has given more than it received. And in that stillness, an old question rises. Who am I when no one needs me? That question, the monks say, is the doorway to awakening. There's a Zen proverb, when you stop running, your true self catches up. For most of us, we've been running since we were 20, running from silence, from emotion, from the uncomfortable truth that life has always been bigger than our plans. We fill the silence with TV, phone calls, background noise, anything to avoid the echo that might answer back. But monks have learned to stop, to sit, to listen. Because when you sit long enough, the silence begins to change shape. It stops being an emptiness that swallows you and becomes a presence that holds you. Monks say loneliness is not the absence of people, it's the absence of presence. When you finally stop filling every gap with distraction, you meet someone you've ignored for a lifetime, yourself. And it's a strange meeting, awkward at first, quiet, but eventually tender. I once visited an elderly monk in Japan, living alone in a small temple surrounded by mist. When I asked him if he ever felt lonely, he smiled as if the question were from another world. He said, "I am never alone because I am always with myself." He explained that solitude is not an empty room, it's a full heart. It's where the inner voice, silenced by years of noise, begins to whisper again, "I'm here. I've always been here." We fear being alone not because of the silence, but because of the truth that silence reveals. When you're young, the world teaches you to build families, careers, futures. But when you grow older, life quietly begins to ask you to unbuild, to shed, to return. And solitude is the space where that gentle unraveling becomes sacred instead of sad. In the monasteries, the monks don't see solitude as isolation. They see it as a homecoming. They sit for hours facing a blank wall, not as punishment, but as prayer. They say, when the mind stops chasing the world, the heart finally finds its way home. Have you ever noticed how your breath changes when you're truly alone? No one to perform for, no one to impress. The shoulders drop, the breath deepens. That's not loneliness. That's your nervous system remembering safety. The body relaxes when it feels seen, and the first eyes that need to see it are your own. You're not afraid of being alone. You're afraid of meeting yourself there. In solitude, the walls between your thoughts begin to thin. You begin to notice small miracles again. The way light moves across the floor, the way your breath feels like the ocean, the way peace doesn't come from company, but from quiet acceptance. You remember that life has never stopped happening. You just stop being still enough to feel it. So the next time you sit alone in a quiet room, don't rush to fill it. Don't reach for your phone. Don't turn on the news. Just listen. Because somewhere beneath the ticking clock, beneath the hum of your own heartbeat, something ancient is calling your name back home. The peace you've been searching for has been waiting inside your own silence. Patient, gentle, unchanged. And once you find it, solitude stops feeling like absence. It starts feeling like presence, the purest kind there is. But solitude doesn't just reconnect you with yourself. It also heals what noise has broken, your ability to truly listen. 2. Silence heals what noise hurts. In monasteries, silence isn't seen as punishment. It's seen as medicine. Every morning before the sun rises, monks eat in silence. They walk in silence. They even sweep the floors in silence. Not because they are forbidden to speak, but because they have learned something the modern world has forgotten. Noise is not nourishment. We live in a time where silence feels almost illegal. The television hums. The phone vibrates. Even when the house is empty, the mind is crowded. And the older we get, the louder that inner noise becomes. Worries about health, about children, about what's been lost. But monks discovered that silence doesn't take anything from you. It gives you back what noise has stolen: your rhythm, your breath, your peace. The world teaches us to fear silence, but silence is where the body finally exhales. When life is filled with noise, the body lives in survival mode. Your heart beats faster, your muscles tense, your digestion slows, because your body thinks you're still running from danger. But when you sit quietly, when the world goes still for a few sacred minutes, something begins to happen that no medicine can imitate. The heart slows, the nervous system resets, and the body finally remembers it is safe. A monk once told me, "Silence is not empty, it is full of answers." And he was right, because silence is not just a pause for the body, it's a mirror for the soul. In silence, all the things we've buried, grief, guilt, regret, begin to rise. The things we never said, the people we never forgave, the versions of ourselves we left behind. At first, it's uncomfortable, painful even, but that's how healing begins. Not with avoidance, but with acknowledgement. Silence doesn't ask you to fix yourself. It asks you to finally listen. I once met an elderly monk in Chiang Mai who had lived alone for over 40 years. When I asked him if silence ever became lonely, he smiled and said, "Silence is not lonely, it's just honest." He explained that in silence, you can't hide from yourself. And once you stop hiding, the pain begins to soften, not because it disappears, but because it's finally seen. Think of it this way. Silence is the body's way of whispering, "I'm ready to heal now." But we rarely let it speak. We drown it in noise, in distraction, in busyness. Yet monks know that healing doesn't come from adding more. It comes from removing what's too much, the chatter, the screens, the constant reaching for the next thing. Science now confirms what monks have known for centuries. Studies show that 2 hours of silence a day stimulates the growth of new brain cells in the hippocampus, the area responsible for memory and emotion. Silence literally repairs the parts of the brain damaged by stress and aging. But monks don't need data to prove it. They feel it. They live it. They let the silence wash through them like rain cleansing dust from the air. Noise numbs, silence renews. The more time you spend in silence, the more you begin to hear things that were always there. Your heartbeat, your breath, the sound of wind brushing against the trees. And beneath all that, you begin to hear something even softer, your own wisdom. Because the truth is, your body knows what it needs. Your heart knows what it misses. Your spirit knows what it longs for. You just have to get quiet enough to listen. So the next time you find yourself sitting alone and that familiar ache of emptiness starts to rise, don't rush to fill it. Don't turn on the TV. Don't pick up the phone. Just breathe. Let the silence do its work. Because silence, when you let it in, doesn't take anything from you. It gives you everything you've been missing: peace, presence, and the quiet reminder that you were never truly alone. When you stop running from silence, you discover it's not the end of the noise. It's the beginning of healing. And when you've listened long enough, something shifts. The silence stops feeling empty. It starts feeling sacred. 3. The sacred rhythm of a simple life. In the monastery, time doesn't chase you. It walks beside you. There are no deadlines, no alarms, no noise from the world screaming for more. The monks wake when the sun breathes light into the sky. They eat slowly without conversation, just the sound of rice meeting the bowl, of breath meeting the body. They move gently, rest when the body whispers for it, and bow to each hour as if it were a friend, not an enemy. They live by rhythm, not rush. And that rhythm, that quiet repetition of simple acts, becomes their heartbeat. You don't grow peaceful by doing less. You grow peaceful by doing simply. In the West, we've built lives so full that they've become empty. We rush through breakfast to get to work, rush through work to get to rest, and rush through rest thinking about what's next. Even after retirement, the rhythm of busy stays wired in the bones, as if slowing down means you've stopped mattering. But monks know something we've forgotten. Peace doesn't come from movement, it comes from meaning. When life becomes simple, the mind becomes spacious, and in that space, joy, the quiet kind, returns. I once watched an old Zen monk named Ryosho sweep the temple courtyard at dawn. He moved so slowly it seemed as though the broom was breathing. I asked him later, "Why sweep if the leaves will fall again tomorrow?" He smiled and said, "Because I am not sweeping to finish, I am sweeping to begin." That was his rhythm, not a task, but a prayer. Simplicity isn't about less, it's about depth. We think peace will come once life becomes easier, but peace comes when life becomes clearer. When every action is done with care, not for results but for presence, when eating becomes a ritual, not a rush, when walking becomes meditation, not transit, when silence becomes company, not punishment. Monks call this the sacred rhythm, the dance between doing and being, the inhale and exhale of existence. It's the understanding that every moment, no matter how small, deserves your full attention, because that attention is your life. There's a Buddhist story about a student who asked his master, "Master, what is enlightenment?" The master replied, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." The student frowned. "Is that all?" The master smiled. "Yes, but most people never truly eat when they eat, nor sleep when they sleep. That's the essence of simplicity, to be fully where you are, to stop living in the past or the next moment, and finally let the present moment be enough. You don't need a busier life. You need a life that breathes with you. When you live like this, the noise inside you begins to fade. You stop measuring time and achievements and start measuring it in peace. Meals taste different. Mornings feel softer. Even the air moves with kindness. The world doesn't change. You do. You stop craving more because you realize what you already have is already sacred. And for those who have lived long enough to know that the years pass faster than you can hold them, this truth becomes even more precious. Life was never meant to be a race. It was meant to be a rhythm. The monks don't live longer because they resist aging. They live lighter because they stop fighting time. Each day is not something to survive, it's something to honor. The goal was never to fill your days, it was to feel them. So maybe peace isn't something you find. Maybe it's what appears when you stop crowding your life with everything that isn't necessary. Light a candle. Pour your tea slowly. Listen to the sound of your own breathing. This is not nothing. This is life, lived on purpose, with grace. But solitude isn't meant to last forever. It teaches you something so powerful that once you return to the world, you carry peace wherever you go. 4. From isolation to belonging, carrying solitude into the world. Monks don't retreat from the world because they hate it. They retreat so they can return to it whole. Their solitude isn't an escape, it's a rehearsal for connection, a cleansing of noise before re-entering the music of life. When a monk returns from silence, he carries something invisible but unmistakable, a calm that softens every room he enters. He doesn't need to speak much. His presence does the speaking. Because solitude, when understood, doesn't make you distant. It makes you deep. You don't go into solitude to disappear. You go there to remember who you are when the world forgets. In the West, loneliness often feels like exile. You lose a partner, a friend, a community, and suddenly the world feels smaller, colder. But in the monastery, monks learn that connection doesn't end when people leave. They say, when you sit in silence long enough, you begin to hear the whole universe breathing with you. The wind becomes a companion. The sunlight becomes conversation. Even the floor beneath your feet hums with belonging. Once you discover this kind of connection, you realize something profound. You were never truly alone, only disconnected from the quiet that loves you. I remember visiting a temple in Kyoto one winter, where the monks had just finished their morning meditation. A man in his 70s who had recently lost his wife was staying there as a lay visitor. He told me he had come because his house felt too empty to breathe in. For the first few days, he said, the silence was unbearable, like standing in a room echoing with ghosts. But by the end of the week, his voice had changed. He told me, "I thought I missed her voice. but I think I was really missing my own. That's what solitude does. It helps you hear your own heart again so you can share it when you return to the world. Solitude isn't the absence of love. It's where love learns how to breathe again. When you stop fearing your own company, every connection becomes pure. You no longer seek people to fill your silence. You invite them to share it. You stop clinging. You start cherishing. And that shift changes everything. Your relationships, your energy, even the way people feel when they're near you. Monks call this returning with presence. It's when you walk into the marketplace after years of quiet, and instead of being overwhelmed by noise, you move like still water through it, no longer needing attention, no longer fearing absence. Because the peace you found in solitude now lives in you, not in the environment, not in the people, but in your awareness. Once you belong to yourself, you belong everywhere. For many in later life, this lesson is a great invitation. After decades of caring for others, children, partners, co-workers, there comes a time when the universe gently asks, "Now, can you care for your own soul?" It's not selfishness, it's a balance. Because when you return to yourself, you become someone others feel safe to return to. The monks have a saying, "When the mind rests in itself, all beings find refuge there." It means that your calm doesn't just heal you, it heals the world around you. Your stillness becomes a sanctuary. Your words, fewer but fuller, carry warmth instead of weight. Imagine that, being the kind of person whose quiet gives others peace. That is what solitude properly lived creates. A heart so steady it becomes a shelter. The goal isn't to live alone, it's to live connected, without needing the noise to prove it. So perhaps loneliness was never a curse, but a calling. A quiet knock on the door of your own heart saying, "Come home." Because when you finally answer, you stop chasing connection. You become it. And that's the secret the monks live by. To step away, not to leave life, but to return to it with open eyes, empty hands, and a full soul. And that brings us to the final lesson, the one every monk lives by. That peace isn't found in a temple or a mountain or a quiet house. It's found wherever you are, once you've learned how to listen. So tonight, when the world quiets and the house feels too big, when the clock ticks louder than it should and the chair beside you stays empty, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't turn on the TV just to feel less alone. Instead, just breathe, sit, listen. Because that soundless space isn't your enemy, it's your invitation. Silence isn't proof that life has left you. It's proof that you're still here to feel it. Whisper to yourself, "I'm still here, and this moment is enough." Let those words land in your chest like a gentle hand over your heart, because they are true. You are still here, not as who you were, but as who you are now. A little older, a little wiser, and still becoming. For too long, we've been told that solitude is where life ends. But monks know the truth. Solitude is where life begins again. It's the quiet soil where new joy starts to root, where the heart learns to grow without needing permission. You don't find peace by filling your life with people. You find peace by learning to sit beside yourself and not run away. When you make peace with being alone, you stop chasing love, and love starts finding you. Not just romantic love, but the kind that hides in simple things. The warmth of morning light through the window, the way tea steams in your hands, the silence that no longer feels heavy, but holy. Because solitude isn't the absence of love, it's the space where love finally finds you. You were never truly lonely. You were simply waiting to come home to yourself. And when you do, you realize that home was never a place. It was a presence, yours. So tonight, instead of asking, "Who will sit with me?" ask, "Can I sit with myself and still feel whole?" And when you can answer yes, that's when healing truly begins. If this message touched your heart, share it with someone who needs peace tonight, because peace multiplies when it's passed on. Leave a comment below. Tell me one thing solitude has taught you about your own strength. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Not just to this channel, but to your own renewal. Because the greatest healing doesn't come from others, it comes from finally becoming your own companion.